Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for pausing in the waiting room. We will begin in about 1 minute. I am Brittany. I'm the manager of public engagement at the Autry Museum. It is a weird time to be a manager of public engagement, but I just want to thank you all for saving space and showing up today. We are going to hear from amazing talent coming directly from Navajo Nation. We're going to hear about COVID-19 relief efforts. We're going to hear from a curator who is Navajo but living in Los Angeles, and we are hopefully going to be called to action in whatever way you are inspired. So, Pamela, whenever you are ready,
okay.
Come on.
Hi, everyone. Yat Pamela Peterson here, touching in Islam. Ashibashin, Tohodlini Dashiche, Ado Kitlishini Dashanale, Dagonazahishle. I just introduce you all with my plans. That's what connects us, and it's the fabric of my existence and who I am as a Navajo. And I say it because it humbles me and reminds me of my ancestors. And it also reminds me that my journey as a Navajo person doesn't end. I live here in Los Angeles, but I'm originally from Red Valley, Arizona, and I grew up primarily around the Shiprock, New Mexico area. As a Diné woman living here on Tovangar, the original home of the Tongva people, I feel it's important to acknowledge our tribal relatives as the original tribal people of this land base, which many people today know as Los Angeles. I like to pay my respects to the Tongva ancestors, the elders, all relatives, relations of past, present, and emerging. I also hope beyond this land acknowledgement that you as viewers of this reading tonight will learn more about where you are, whose land you currently reside on, and actually even visiting. It's important to go beyond a land acknowledgement. It's important to know and respect the Indigenous people's culture, history, and existence. I also want to recognize and thank the Autry Museum, especially Brittany Campbell, who has been such a huge advocate for the Native American community. She definitely supports the voices, the cultures coming directly from tribal people like myself. So thank you, Brittany, and thank you to the entire staff at the Autry Museum. Navajo people have been deeply impacted either directly or indirectly through our kinship ties by COVID-19. Most news reporting reveals the tragic impact of COVID-19 on the Navajo reservation, yet we rarely hear from the people directly impacted. Because of this, I decided to do a poetry reading so people can hear us instead of reading about us. I want people to understand that we are resilient, individuals who have persevered many atrocities. We are a tribal community who understand our kinship and how we as Diné have to come together through these challenging times. I love poetry. I write at times, but lately I've not been very motivated to write. Most news I hear from back home on the reservation has not been good. It has definitely taken a toll on me both physically and emotionally. However, after hearing my aunt share some poetry to me in the Navajo language for me to cope with my feelings, it revered my soul, and from that I had an epiphany. Why not create an event where more people can hear about Navajo culture, and what better way than with beautiful words? Through the partnership with the Autry Museum in Los Angeles, we were able to give you 2 evenings of sharing some of Saad Nizhóní beautiful words from our 4 amazing Diné poets. Tonight, you will hear from Sherwin Bitsui from White Cone, Arizona, and then we will hear from Sahar Kajori, who will speak about the work from the Utah Navajo COVID Relief Fund is doing for the Navajo community, and hopefully some of you will be able to donate tonight. Thereafter, I will go directly into introducing our second poet, Tacey M. Atsitty, whose family is from Cove, Arizona. Next Thursday, which I hope you will join us again, our 2 poets will be Jake Skeets from Vanderwagen, New Mexico, and Roe Shelba from Fort Defiance, Arizona, and that is on July 23rd at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Before we start, I wanted to remind you once again that we are doing a fundraising for the Utah Navajo COVID-19 relief program that my Diné relative, Sahar Kajadorian, is working with. She has been working endless hours fundraising, driving around the scorching hot Navajo reservation, delivering food and essential resources to our Navajo elders and families who are not able to travel that long distance to get these supplies. So before we start, I want to give Sahar a few minutes to give a brief intro about the Utah Navajo COVID-19 relief program. Immediately after, I will introduce Sherwin Bitsui. Thank you.
So yat shik Diné she Sahar Kajanori Yanashia, Nakai Diné and Shlento Persian Meshichin with Ahni Dashache, Auto Persian Dashanale. Without the net and Shlen. Hello, everybody. My name is Sahar Kajanori. I'm the coordinator for the Utah Navajo COVID relief program under the umbrella of Utah Navajo Health System. Our goal, our task, our mission is to make sure that all of our elders, autoimmunocompromised, COVID positive, and families in need have food on their tables, not just today or tomorrow, but every day. We are constantly finding new ways to get food out to the community. We have a phenomenal team. Our founder, Mr. Pete Sands, has been courageous in finding ways to reach out, extend our reach, and through that, we have been able to provide food and other necessities for households. UNHS is also responsible for the first mass testing on the Navajo Nation, completing 5,600 tests in the initial 4 runs, and which is pretty remarkable. And that's how we've been able to track numbers and identify who's in need, who has been served, and who hasn't. This is one of my favorite photos. The little fuzzy sheep at the very bottom, her name's Evelyn. Evelyn was so happy to receive visitors, and that's really important because a lot of these elders and these seniors are living alone and haven't had company. COVID-19 is a very lonely virus. So people have been living in isolation, and even delivering a package of food is a way to interact with another person. And I like to stay and chat it up for a little while, but it really breaks my heart when they want to invite me into the house for coffee or just to listen. So in the top, we have the program director, Pete Sands, and the bottom, Kolenia Holly, the director of the Inapoho'a program. So through that, we also have an entire team of interns, little youth leaders who have been helping us out, deliver food and packages, which are so important to elders like the woman pictured here. And our team, Pete, myself, and Kayla, are juggling from different locations, from Montezuma Creek to Navajo Mountain, which is a huge chunk. So we cover all of the Utah Navajo portion of the Navajo Nation, and we're currently undergoing a really big hit. We've just reached our 2nd spike, and so this is really important work, and I'm so thankful for everybody attending tonight. Saad, Nizhóní. This is one of my favorite images. We make new friends every day, both 2- and 4-legged, bringing snacks for everybody, for both adults, children, elders, and for puppies too. So we want to say thank you, everybody, for attending.
I'm just going to jump back in, even though I'm not supposed to, because I got so excited about this event that I forgot to tell you a couple cool things. So 1, there will be questions after. If y'all have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Also, the one thing that's terrible about digital events is that we can't hear or feel the energy of the room. So while I do encourage you to keep your mic muted, if a poet has a line or Sahar has some brilliance that really resonates with you, we're going to encourage virtual, no sound on snaps. Or if you're not comfortable to put your video on, we should hit like snaps in the chat, or like maybe the clap reaction, just so that our poets and Sahar feel the love. And we are also going to give away a work by each of the poets who read today. So just by showing up today, you have an opportunity to be put into a giveaway to have a longer relationship with our poets than just this evening. So All right, back to Pamela.
Tacey is Diné, originally from Cove, Arizona. She is from the Sleep Rock people and born for the Tangle people. Tacey is a recipient of the Truman Capote Creative Writing Fellowship, the Corson Browning Poetry Prize, Morningstar Creative Writing Award, and the Philip Freund Prize. She received her BA from Brigham Young University, BYU, and the Institute of American Indian Arts, IAIA. She received her MFA in creative writing from Cornell University. Her work can be seen in various publications such as Poetry, Epoch, Canyon Review Online, Prairie Schooner, Crazy Horse, New Poets of Native Nations, and various publications. Tacey is also the director of the Navajo Film Festival, poetry judge for the Eggtooth Edition Chapbook Contest, a member of Advisory Council for BYU's Charles Reed Center of Western Studies, Advisory Board for Light Scattered Press, Intermountain All-Woman Hoop Dance Competition at This Is the Place Heritage Park. Tacey is currently a PhD student at Florida State University. Her book, Rainscald, is currently available from University of New Mexico Press. Thank you, and here is Tacey.
Hi, everybody. So glad to be here. Yat eshe sani edel inedeshe jinne, sena habishinishle, katne satni bashichin, kabahedeshe chiro hashk ahazorashanele, akot al dene asanishle. So tonight I'm going to start off with some new work. This is in a second manuscript. So my first book is Rainscald. You saw a picture of it earlier. And this is my some new work from a new manuscript, which I'm shopping around right now for a publisher. Round our wrists for first men. We swing like shawls about the shoulders of brides, spread open in a field of snow. Though it's just yet fall, leaves bob red, foretell the absence of voice at eventide. Once we sat in the current of a longhouse, lulled in the memory of a stew that warmed an ice monster. I raked the story for your elbow and warmth, a message so petty. Answer, I missed you when you left to carve a snow snake tunnel. Upon throwing my tendon caught in the eddy of creation, I could no longer follow your collar in snow so far. Bark I braided round our wrists, round back. One of these days, you will find me under the white, where autumn floats, rounding out the soles of our feet, where the arcs of our breaths hold. River Sonnet. Water levels have bled out, like it had just bitten its lip and was about to swell, then rip. Had I paid better attention to drought, listened more to the stars and stayed with mountain clouds, I'd have let go of the knot swing hanging above the slow life flow beneath my legs. I'd have prayed to forget all the times to forget all the times he came to me but not wanted me. How fast it rises, carrying plumes of pang and undercurrent, swirls of sediment and silt around my knees, the dragging stalks and leaves of irises, how pathetic they look, breaking in torrent. Still life, morrow. I think they know about every leaf I'd catch to peel from my tongue. It spoke to how good I was at being alone. This morning I sit in the still kitchen, rude by autumn passing me outside. Still, I cut into my omelet. Turn off the static, my therapist says. Taste what you swallow. Inside, I feel water burst from the baby bellas. I wish I were staring at a still life, a bowl of cactus, fruit maybe, or rotted watermelon, and not this wintry scene of the road I've just taken. In it rises our breath to the lone mountains, as layers of rain gloss us abundantly. Hole through the rock. I was something slough before you rode me silver and smooth until shone. I rode in and didn't even see I was gone. The eye of my navel, sand folds this way all the time, and rain scours just the same. You hold all the clay. I fall to granule. But within my whirl you are winged, doubled, and pure, like the coupling of pebbles in storm water. These enduring glances from wind on pane say you can see plainly the part of me you miss. Our palms meet at the fingertips, forming a W, double which is only half
Mr. C.
whole us, where our wrists brush smooth, clay chips curve into the sand-swept hollow. A royal to the usual clink of bone and arc in stone. This is not about time. It's the closing of a single us, a gentle edging into an ellipse. So this next part of my reading, I'm going to read a short story, which I never do. So consider yourself lucky, maybe. So this is a story called To the Whirlwinds, and it was first published in Prairie Schooner some years back. Thanks for the snaps. To the Whirlwinds. It was their second lap around Nizhóní when the skies rapidly darkened. Late May and Red Valley hadn't yet much rain, but it was always this way, always dry, even up to the tips of the mountains. Rain, when it does storm, falls so briefly in the valley that within the length of a day, the fresh pools are taken up in lone clouds. Clouds so small a person could pluck them and stuff them in a pocket. The man looked to the sky as he led the cross-country team around the neck of a large black rock that protruded from the earth. He often imagined the rock as a monster's thumb from the earlier days, that perhaps the monster was hitchhiking somewhere. And then along came Nizhóní, who sliced his thumb as he ran by. He smiled as he thought of his oldest daughter, Pepper, and how she became fascinated with sticking out her thumb on the roadside, moving it back and forth, yelling at trucks as they zoomed by. Going my way? It became the only way she wanted to travel. He usually only made the team run around the rock twice before coming back, as the loop was a total of 6 miles, but today was a peculiar one. And although he was grateful for the cloud cover, he quickened his pace. He was afraid of the abrupt darkness thickening above him, afraid not of the rain, but of other ailing forces that fall and twist from the sky. He remembered chasing a little whirlwind as a young boy in Utah. She was a classmate of his in grade school from Wind River up north. Though it was young love and many years ago, he was still swept up in those first small exchanges of love. But now, when he thought of love and wind, he thought of his Nolly. His grandfather had taught him to bury his face in his hands in the big winds so that he couldn't breathe and couldn't see because bad spirits traveled in them. That's how they enter, through the mouth and eyes. His Nale also taught him not to chase dust devils because they are actually people who are not supposed to come and visit, and so he was taught to stay at a distance and out of their paths. Already this spring, he and his runners had laid out a good path. He didn't have to look, but he knew they were a ways behind him. He shortened his stride and took notice of each puff of breath that came from the ground where he stomped his feet. He had already run 10 miles this morning, so he practiced his eagle breathing, 2 quick breaths in and 1 long breath out. This breathing could carry him long distances, could carry him through any kind of terrain or weather. He felt good running. He had been taught since he was young to run, to rise in the early morning before the skyline went orange, to run in the direction the sun would rise, to gather blessings from the holy people. He had likewise taught his children to run. Most mornings he'd head out when the sky was still a dark blue and then come back as the sun began to rise, his shirt and sweatshirt, his breathing and his eyes full of blessings. Then he'd go to the beds of his older children, his son and 2 daughters, uncover their feet and slowly run his forefinger along the soles from the bottom to the top. It's time, he'd say. And then they knew. They knew not only that it was time to get up, but they knew the route he'd set out for them to run. Sometimes when one or all of them protested, he promised them ice cream later that day. Today was Pepper's birthday, and he still hadn't bought her a gift. For a while, he had wanted to get her a BB gun, now that she was 5. Sometimes when one or all of them protested, he'd promised, I got that mixed up. Let's see. For a while, he had wanted to get her a BB gun now that she was 5. But then he thought maybe he should encourage her to act more like a girl than the tomboy she was. So often, he treated her like a son. He'd take her out on hunts and teach her how to step the mountain, teach her where to take the sheep for baby oak and springs, teach her how to keep silent while fishing. When she was an infant, he took her and her mother camping in the Rocky Mountains in January. He was going to miss her birthday today, he knew. His wife and the kids had gone out to Twadlina to visit their maternal grandparents, and he knew they were planning on driving down to Gallup for a pizza party. He was thinking, My Little Pony, the same gift he was planning on getting his other daughter for her birthday that was coming up in July. When he saw a vehicle blazing through the red dirt and weeds, something's happened, he thought, and picked up his pace again. He couldn't remember how he came to be short of breath, standing in front of his son and baby daughter, Billy. They were caged up, lying in small beds with high railing. His baby daughter, the doctor said, had broken her hips, but remained quiet when they found her beneath sagebrush at the side of the road after the accident. His son had tubes running up his nose into his eyes. His wife, they had said, was already gone. And her sister and her sister's daughter, gone. And his oldest daughter. He turned away from the 2 in front of him and made his way to her. He stood at the edge of the door for a second or 2 before entering her room. She was breathing. She was broken all over, but he didn't want to weep. When he stepped as though he were trying not to spook a deer, she slowly opened her eyes to look at him, and he thought he saw her eyes smile at him. He moved to her. "You're going," he said, but couldn't finish what he wanted to say. Then she closed her eyes. He swept back the hair from her forehead over and over again, but it just kept falling back in place. They were prepping the helicopter to take her to Albuquerque Children's Hospital. He could hear the propellers begin to cut the air. He held her and softly pressed his chin on her head into the origins of her hair swirl. His breath was circular, as if it weren't oxygen he was breathing in, as if it were old air, and he felt as if he could no longer breathe, as if all breath were leaving him through his head and fingertips and toes. He closed his eyes and remembered his Nali saying, "These are the points where we became alive, where breath was breathed into us, where wind was good." The saddest story. That's actually my family's personal story, and I write that story over and over and over again. Yeah. There's a poem in Rainscald, which I'm going to move towards right now. It's called Sunbeam. And so if you get a chance to pick up the book, Sunbeam is a high bun, which is a Japanese form. And it's that same story in there. Okay. I'm going to read. So I'll tell you just a little bit about this book. I wrote this book when, as my master's thesis for my Master's of Fine Arts, and I was living in Ithaca. I was going to Cornell University. And so the book is broken up into 3 parts. The first is, the first part of the book is called Sayit, which means deep in the rock. And essentially like a canyon. So I'll let you guys think about that metaphor. And then the second part is called Gorge Dweller, where the poems that were written in and about were the gorges in Ithaca, New York. And I got to spend some time with the Oneida and Onondaga people and learn a little bit about their stories and how the land informed what was happening while I was there. The third part is called Hohe, which is an extinct ceremony. Someone came up to me, they're like, "It's not extinct." So I don't know, it may or may not be extinct. But extinct Navajo ceremony used for calling rain and healing paralysis and resuscitating from drowning and deafness and handling dreams. And so for me, with everything that's happening right now in the Navajo Nation, I feel like it's all here in this book, in different and various forms. And so I'm going to read a little bit well-known poem called Navajos. We call them Anna Saze or Na Saze. And so the name of the book is called Rainscald. And Navajos or Diné, we believe that the Nasaze are ancestors to our neighboring tribe, the Pueblos. And so we learn from their stories, from the stories of the Nasaze. A Nasaze. How can we die when we're already prone to leaving the table mid-meal? Like ancient ones, gone to breathe elsewhere. Salt sits still, but pepper's gone, rolled off in a rush. We've practiced dying for a long time. When we skip dance or town, when we chew, we round it out like dining room walls in a canyon, eaten through by wind. Sorry we rushed off. The food wasn't ours. Sorry the grease sits white on our plates. And the jam that didn't set, use it as syrup to cover every theory of us. I'm going to finish up with the last poem in my book. It's got 3 parts, and it's called Evensong, which is essentially a petition to deity or the holy people for everything that's happening in the past and current. Evensong 1. At the throat of this tree, he sees me kneel, steep into leaves and pockets of shale. My voice hollows out veins and roots. I look to you to see you, fallen mouth from the sky, up where lips round off over descant, steep into leaves and pockets of shale, open, rain-beaded blossom, uvular angles, where rocks fall out of themselves, utter, up where lips round off over descant. I want to go back to Ruth, mouth ever so filled to the lips before the fall, word spill, where rocks fall out of themselves, utter a prayer, both limb and leaf bent skyward, the calm before collapse, creek cut at the lips before the fall, a word spill from leaf tongue, Father, from cracks the calm before collapse, creek cut. In the throat of this tree, he sees me kneel. My voice hollows out veins and roots. 2. Scoop to hollow the bend, calm to bend, calm. See my right palm? I'm going to bend calm again. Rock wrens of eventide begin to warble the easy ends. Cut. Into the air sweet water sprays, psalm to the ever-pouring gaze, a trickle balm as my sore ran in the night. When to embalm this bubble walk, and finally ascend, scoop the hollowed. Where the arrow current quells the qualm, pierced, we say nothing. I glance at my palm. It's where we began and didn't go, didn't lend our eyes toward the current, whittled to bend, a sand-swollen end, a silent opening. 3. Oh, holy people, show me how I am human, how I am soon to sliver. Stay, please, for woman or man's sake. Succor me from a telestial state, where I long to be self-luminous in a state, in a slate of granite. How easily I fall to shards, a hand left to wane ungathered. How easily we gather rocks for pockets. What drowns is not the boulder, but swivel water bait. Oh, Diné, hook me by the ribs, bear me up to human. So I know to come here only when it's a male rain. This is how I dry my hair, kept from weight of water. If all you can tell me is, wait, let it be enough to know how sparkling can. Oh, holy people. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tacey. We're going to go into a brief intro of Sahar's work. She's going to share some additional information about the Utah Navajo COVID-19 fundraising effort for the Navajo Nation, and thereafter I will introduce Sherwin Bitsui.
Welcome back, everybody. Wow, Tacey, your words are powerful. Like, thank you. Day in and day out, we are rolling up our sleeves and shuffling boxes and bags from one side of this clinic to the other, and to take a break and to hear such beautiful words come out of the computer. It's phenomenal. So thank you. Speaking of shuttling things back and forth, just during the winter months, we're chopping wood and sending wood to elders' homes. Just kind of an update. Here in the Navajo Nation, a majority of our elders, actually a majority of people who live out in this rural community are living without central heating or central air conditioning, for that matter. So we are doing things like chopping wood and stocking firewood for people's houses. We to distribute food to so many homes, we are doing curbside pickups multiple times a day. And this is kind of grueling. These are the days that we have anywhere from 70 to 200 cars that will come through, and we're preparing packages and dropping them inside as safely as we can. With all of our PPE and our gloves and all of our volunteers, we still find ourselves totally drained, but wanting to feed more and do more. In this slide, I'm taking names and phone numbers and addresses for individuals that are waiting in line in our town. You'll see up to, we'll completely shut down the town because we're backed up down the road, and kind of just to give you an idea of how important these drive-thrus are. So Pete in the bottom left-hand corner is kind of directing this, and I'm out taking names. And my favorite part of the day is saying, "Good morning. I'm so happy you came today." Sometimes we don't hear that to everybody, from everybody, and that's just my simple gift to every individual, to let them know how important they are and how happy I am to see them. So the other my favorite parts of the day are after the drive-thrus, the curbside pickup, is visiting elders' homes and sharing just a few minutes of their day, and also helping nurses get their packages loaded. So within 24 hours of hearing somebody is COVID positive, we're delivering a package into their house, and 2 more packages within 14 days just to keep people home, keep people safe. And this is one of the most rewarding times is visiting people's houses and really seeing the appreciation and gratitude. And I wish I could just capture that and share it with you. It makes your heart swell. It's pretty incredible. And just pushing or reiterating. So did you know that about 30% of the population of the Navajo Nation does not have running water? Water is such a precious resource. Being able to deliver water to people's homes is such a important part of what we do. And also to deliver fresh drinking water for those who are unable to drink any of the tap water, because we do have issues of contamination within our water system. So water is life. It's so beautiful. It's so precious. And it's always a gift to share with others. So that's a little bit about what our days are like, zipping from one point to the other. So that's kind of being the life of Utah Navajo COVID relief. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sahar. Again, we are fundraising, so please consider giving a donation to Utah Navajo COVID relief program. And these individuals are from the community, our kinship. They're helping each other. And so, you know, if you want, go to the Autry website. All the information and links are available there. I'm going to go into our next poet. Our next poet is Sherwin Bitsui. Sherwin Bitsui is Diné from White Cone, Arizona. He is from the Bitterwater clan, born for the Many Goats clan. He's the author of Shapeshift from University of Arizona Press, Flood Songs, and Dissolve from Copper Canyon Press. His honors include a Lannan Foundation Literary Fellowship and a Native Arts and Culture Foundation Arts Fellowship. He is also a recipient of the 2010 Penn Open Book Award, an American Book Award, and the Whiting Writers Award. In addition to teaching at the Institute of American Indian Arts, IAIA, he is also a faculty member at Northern Arizona University. His current book, Dissolve, is available for purchase from Copper Canyon Press. Here is Sherwin Bitsui.
Hey, Autry. I think you can show the video. I think I'm okay now. See, okay, don't run away, everybody. Suddenly, like off on computers. But Autry, Sherwin Bitsui, das ist Diné, bibetwat niet wat in Isla. Was het landen beschijn door yani de national aiden nensla. Le be baugedet nasha. Ade is ja ade is ek de hat. Ado jo yo ya be hens jo kwa hago di Saad na chma be hades to janagoshi hikadol wol analswa so to the yo kuye egi bi ne kaikad dai bansus guest. My name is Sherwin Bitsui, and I'm really grateful to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you to the organizers, Pamela, Sahar, the Autry Museum. It's good to see you again. I got to meet you guys a couple of years ago. When my book first came out, you were so generous in inviting me to visit your wonderful museum. And also I see Natalie Bitsy's here. Also, it's good to see you. Also to Tacey, thank you for your wonderful poems as always. And if this thing starts cutting out, I'm just gonna go ahead and turn on the screen so you can hear the poems. I'm originally from White Cone, Arizona, on the southern part of the reservation, and I'm of the Bitterwater people, so I probably have a lot of relatives listening, hopefully. And I'm born for the Many Goats. And I was raised on a reservation. I was raised, in a traditional family. I grew up as a shepherd, during the summertime and then throughout the year on weekends. So I got a lot of land in my work. And I've authored 3 books. I have 3 books out now, and I'll read from probably my latest books, Flood Song and Dissolve. And I might segue into an essay, just because it kind of gives you a sense of where we're at this moment in time. And I hope you are able to donate some money. I used to teach poetry in the Utah Strip, is what we used to call it then, up in Monument Valley, Whitehorse High School, and even over at Navajo Mountain. So a lot of the families, I think Sahar helps, are probably families that somehow I met family members or relatives in those schools. And I'm really grateful for what she does, because that's really where my poetry first sort of emerged. And so I'm glad to give back to that community. It's the northern part of the reservation. This first poem is just the opening to my book Dissolve, or Flood Song, I'm sorry, Flood Song. And, water, Sahar mentioned water, and this is my poem to water, and it is water. And I'll show you what it looks like on the page if you can see it. It's a concrete poem, but it's just the word for water, and it kind of goes down the page. This is how I read it. Toi, 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 toi. And I grew up without water, without running water, whatever that means. We had the spring water, and we used to go up to the spring when I was a kid and get water from the spring up on the hill. And so I know that situation that many of my community members and my extended family are going through. But that's the beginning of Flood Song. And it's a book-length poem, and water is rushing through all of it. And I come from the desert, so I just kept thinking about this bead of water that's dripping down. And I just imagine the desert. I imagine people naming water, like in every particular part of the world. And I just thought of like, okay, the word for water in Navajo is this really beautiful jewel of a word. And if you repeat it several times, then it sounds like it's dripping. Like twa, twa, twa. That's where that poem came from. And this is the last fragment of Flood Song. I wanted to swallow the song's flowers, swim diagonally, its arched back, its shadows stinging my hands with black pollen. We're on the same surgical table, waiting for the surgeons to carve us back into shape. The drum pulsed somewhere in the dark, and I heard a woman unbraiding her hair. I felt morning songs leap from the Hawan's smoke hole and curl outward from the roof of the sky, gliding through us like rain. I sang until the sun rose. The shadows of my face grew into a swallow. A cloud became a skull and crashed to the earth above Black Mesa. The cloud wanted to slip through the coal mines and unleash its horses. It wanted to crack open bulldozers and spray their yoke over the hill so that a new birth cry would awaken the people who had fallen asleep. It wanted to push her asymmetrical ramblings into the weft of a storm blanket, dye it hazel and sink it into the rising waters. A city dragged its bridges behind it and finally collapsed in a supermarket, asking for the first apple that was ever bitten. No one questioned sand anymore. No one untucked themselves from their bodies and wandered the streets without knowing their clans. Everyone planted corn in their bellies and became sunlight washing down plateaus with deer running out of them. The phone was ringing through it all. The line was busy when I picked the axe and chose the first tree to chop down. My glasses here. All right, let's go to. I'm going to go to the essay just because it kind of gives you a sense of what I've been experiencing. My conversations have been with my mom over these past few months, and she works out on the reservation, and she I've just been really kind of interested in her response to this whole episode, this whole moment. My mom called and said we lost a clan relative, one she called her good father in Diné. I'm so sad, Ya, she said. He was always so kind and supportive. I'm going to miss him. It's suspected he died of COVID-19. I remember playing Navajo 10, a card game I've heard is a lot like Go Fish, with he and his wife at my Bijou Rose's trailer on weeknights. When I was a teenager, and we'd play for pennies and dimes, the Coleman lamp casting dark shadows of hands and found out cards on the patchwork quilt stretched out under our knees and shoes on the living room floor. Those were lean times, like any other time on the reservation. My mom had lost her job at the local boarding school due to BIA cuts. Dad drove 2 hours to Flagstaff each morning with his buddies to sheetrock new multi-room houses while their own homes sometimes lacked essential space or room for everyone living there. My mom intended to further her education and get her associate's degree from the community college in Holbrook, but it still made life challenging at home. A few times my sister would only have enough change to buy a small item at the high school cafeteria. I look forward to these weekly card games, but I mostly enjoyed listening to the elders catch up on weekly gossip and news. I'm not sure what the difference between the two is on the res, but they were great stories. The most interesting one sparked gasps and eye rolls and sharp snaps of the chin, suggesting, wait, what? Say it again, who did what? Such gestures would continue until a loud collective groan ensued. Someone had won. And if I'd caused the other players to slap their cards to the floor in defeat by winning the final double wager round, I'd have chili cheese fries or a slice of pizza from the snack bar for lunch the next day. After the game, my mom's good father and his wife would climb into their Ford pickup and drive back to their home several miles away, the near opaque black reservation night swallowing them up within seconds of their departure. These days, my mom cooks at and manages a local senior center. Since the advent of the COVID-19 virus on the res, she's been delivering warm lunches to elders, many of whom reside miles away, only accessible by rutted dirt roads. Some folks, as the news suggests, do not have running water in these remote settlements. Often water is delivered in barrels from nearby springs. I feel so bad, my mom says. Some of these people, the elders, live way out and they don't have anything. Their children have all moved away, and I want to tell them, but there's only so much I can do. I want to help them, and there's only so much I can do. I got somewhat upset with her when the number of infections on the res began increasing. Her health is compromised, and she's extremely vulnerable. I told her now would be the best time to retire. She's been saying she will retire every year since 2015, but the bills keep piling up. Jobs are incredibly scarce, and being at home all the time with her thoughts and not working is the last thing she wants to do with her retirement years. It's too dangerous for you to be out there delivering lunches. All those people, who knows who has the virus, I say over the phone 4 hours away in Albuquerque. I know, Yaj, she says. We were ordered to slide the lunch boxes through the space in the window. We don't talk to them face to face. We wear gloves and masks. I imagine her driving into a family settlement, rolling dust clouds behind her white government van, her gloved hand pressing the car horn on approach, as the other hand reaches for the boxed lunch next to her. How difficult it must be not to have a conversation with the elders, not to shake their hands or embrace them. A new way of being that is as foreign to us as the fences that have sliced up the land into acres and parcels in and around Diné. In Navajo culture, it is customary to shake everyone's hands upon arrival to anyone's house. Even young children will offer their hands to strangers as their families saunter about the room, never calling anyone by their name, but referring to one as a relative, as Here in Navajo land, a young toddler can be referred to as a grandfather or grandmother by an elder if that child happens to be either one of the elder's grandparents' clan. The toddler, if they could talk, might call the elder their grandchild, and so on. Is what binds us as Diné. Our handshakes and our embraces are the intersections of that great web of interconnectedness and familial rootedness. Hence, my mom probably never called her clan dad by his name. And I suspect he rarely called my mom by her name when they shook hands at the senior center or at seasonal ceremonial gatherings. Last week, I watched a recording of a high school friend's funeral on Facebook Live. She had apparently died from COVID-19 complications. Her photographs flashed on a screen over the left shoulder of her rose-colored urn. How true it is that fashion and hairstyles can give you an instant sense of a time and place. Her hairstyles showed her transformation from 80s heavy metal kid to 90s grunge teenager. In every photo, she is with family and friends. I even recognize one photo I may have taken of her and her brother at the Winter Rock Fair. The church was half empty, the silhouettes of her 3 children spaced apart on the pews in the camera's frame. I looked for her brother, but because of social distancing rules, I imagined him watching the ceremony on a flat screen in the hallway outside the room, or like me and others, on a cell phone screen while parked outside this border town church. When I told my mom about my high school friend, she asked, "Where is her family from? I mean, where is her home? I didn't know. All the Navajos I knew in high school were bussed in from the 4 chapters on the southern part of the reservation. Most of our parents had gone to school together, most of us repeating their daily hours-long journey to and from Holbrook High School. Though Holbrook at the time had only one stoplight, it felt like some distant world where civilization pressed its grid into the barren red desert, taming it, while the res, just a half-hour north, bristled with high desert shrubs and Rorschach-like dirt roads webbing the dusty landscape. Their family lived here, and I didn't know much other than that. I just knew my Navajo friends who grew up in town had an ease with the white students and teachers I didn't have. They could mingle with them naturally, while I stayed frozen, my tongue heavy with 2 languages, 2 ways of being. I had sheep shit and dirt road pebbles in the grooves of my vans. They had beads of asphalt. They could have been related to me, perhaps my brother and sister, but I never once thought to ask them what their clans were. Now, a blank spot where their home is. Most Navajos carry this deep sense of home everywhere they go. When I run across a Navajo at my poetry readings in different parts of the country, the first question I ask is, "Where are you from?" And sometimes they name an American city or town, but like my mom, I say, "No, where are you really from?" Once the real home is established, we start building a web of community and familial connections. If they know so-and-so and so on. And then we speak our clans and see how we are related. I shake the person's hand and refer to them as a relative from that moment on, that moment forward. Suddenly we are home again, living out of time and place as if we are in our homeland, even as if we are walking in Union Square or eating at an Italian bistro in Boston. I count myself extremely lucky if the other person speaks Navajo. Then we can catch up on stories from home, perhaps make the same gestures as my relatives made under the hiss of that Coleman lamp all those years ago. And so that is a little story of, I think, Navajo life. I think, as we are a large, population of Native people. I mean, I don't know what I'm saying, but I think what really is beautiful is that I am able to give readings and travel and meet people. And, when we come across another Navajo, it's always this sense of homecoming. It always feels like we all long for home. And just yesterday, I was talking to my aunt, and, a lot of us haven't been home who live in the city simply because we don't want to infect others if we possibly have this COVID-19, especially our elders and our grandmothers. And my aunt was saying that, like, how she longs for home, she misses home, and she's been listening to the Navajo radio station KTNN daily just so she could get a sense of that. So at this point in time, you have a whole bunch of homesick Navajos living in cities. I'm sure Pamela is feeling that way too. It's like we can't really just go home as easily as we want to. But hopefully situations like this, like where we're telling stories, can allow for some of that, because we are so much about that. And I'll finish off with a poem from Dissolve. And it's my latest book. I actually, when the book first dropped, I actually was able to go to LA, and I did 5 readings in and around that area. And this one is called The Caravan, and it's about rescuing a loved one. You know, a lot of us have relatives who struggle in urban areas. You know, missing relatives who disappear and don't come back, and also brothers and uncles and sisters and cousins who, you know, need to be brought home. And so this particular poem is called The Caravan. And thank you for listening. The city's neon embers stripe the asphalt's blank page, where the story pens itself nightly, where ghosts weave their oily hair into his belt of ice, dress him in pleated shadows and lay him fetal on the icy concrete, the afterbirth of sirens listening over him. We drain our headlights on his scraped forehead and watch the December moon two-step across his waxen eyes. His mouth's shallow pond, a reflecting pool where his sobs leak into my collar. One more, just one more, he whispers, as he thaws back into the shape of Nizhóní, our brother, bruised knees thorning against his chest. We steal away, our wheels moan through sleet and ash. Death places second and third and fourth behind us. At home on the reservation, father sifts dried cedar leaves over glowing embers. Mother, hovering above cell phone light, awaits, he's okay, never went out, watched a movie instead. But tonight, my speech has knives that quiver at the ellipses of neon Budweiser signs blinking through the fogged windshield, and I text, I've only rescued a sliver of him. He's only 25 and he smells like blood and piss. His turquoise bracelet snatched for pawn by the same ghost who traded his jacket for a robe of snow and ice before inviting him back into the caravan for one more, just one more. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sherwin. We have a request. Tacey, are you there? Tacey?
Yes, I'm here.
So we have a request from Sherwin and myself, if you could do a song for us.
Sure.
Okay.
Sherwin, put me on the spot.
Gotta do it for your elders. For your Sani. We're your Sani.
So, as I was thinking about what song might be appropriate, I was thinking about some of the things that Sherwin was talking about and reading about. So, I've decided to do 2 songs, 2 verses each of one of each song. And they're both songs by J. Begay. And the first song will be about grandparents, because Sherwin was talking about grandparents. And so the second song will be about the 4 sacred mountains, because everyone's missing home right now. So, and I'm just going to turn my video off because I'm a poet, not quite a singer. So enjoy. Yo-ene, yo, hey, hey. Halane, she, the end, chayan, and nahashni. Nashinet kabekego, Nizhóní yishach, halane yeshiche, Kanahat zordizin, wayo heyo heneyo, yo wayo hey. Halane shimasane, the chayan and nahashni. Nashinet kabekego, Nizhóní yishach, halane yeshimasane, kanahat zordizin, wayo heyo heneyo, yellow heneyo, Sisnachine, Tzotzech, Dok Osli, De Benitza, Be'adonechye Asadisa, Be'tetzero, Be'tetzero, Yo, hey, hey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tacey. That was so beautiful. I want to thank you, Tacey and Sherwin, for your beautiful words, your Saad Nizhóní, your beautiful words this evening. Your words are like sweet cedar burning and dancing and wrapping around my soul. Your words have carried me home tonight. So thank you for that. Sorry, I'm getting emotional because that song is about grandparents, and right now I'm missing my grandparents.
I was like, Pamela, to just have the confidence and the talent to sing on the spot, like you don't have post, you don't have a regular mic. Oh, just beautiful words, like beautiful language, beautiful rhythm.
Take it all in, Tacey.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Take questions. No one has posed a question. I think because maybe like me, everyone is just so in awe, so stunned, so appreciative. But if anyone does have a question, I think we have like 5 to 10 minutes. If not, we have a regularly scheduled end that I'm trying to kill some time till Pamela can get through.
Yes, thank you. I want to thank you all for taking the time this evening to log on to this Zoom event. This is really important for us as Diné people, our Diné, being redundant, for Diné. And, we're going through some very challenging times right now. And I really appreciate that you guys took your evening to hear us, as opposed to just reading all the negative news back home. But we are resilient people, and we've persevered through a lot of atrocities, and we do it with our words, we do it with our storytelling. And I just want to thank you all, and I want to thank you so much, Tacey and Sherwin, for sharing your time and your beautiful words and your presence this evening. So thank you. And I want to remind you all that we are also doing fundraising. We're doing donations for our Navajo elders and families. And we are also going to be doing this again next week. And so if you can join us again next Thursday, July 23rd at 6 p.m., you'll hear some additional readings, some phenomenal readings from Jake Skeets from Vanderwagen, New Mexico, and Rowie Shibala from the Fort Defiance, Arizona. And again, that's on Thursday, July 23rd at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The Zoom platform is allowing people all around the world to hear Navajo poets and our beautiful words and our culture and our language, but most importantly about our survival. And I really want to thank you, Brittany and the Autry, for giving us this opportunity and this platform to share our words. So thank you.
All right, everybody. Well, if there are no questions, like, come on, we got talent here, we got voices. Maybe you're just as mind blown as I am. I do want to leave maybe 3 minutes to process in case a question comes to y'all. But other than that, yes, I like Pamela. Hope you join us next Thursday. As I mentioned in the beginning of the program, just by being here, you have entered a giveaway to receive a work by Sherwin or Tacey. I'm going to draw the name randomly tomorrow. So I will email you if you are said winner, and then you will be mailed their important work. Sahar did such a great job of making the story personal and sharing what it's like to be on the ground doing COVID-19 relief efforts. So I do want to take this last moment to encourage you to donate if that's how you're called to action. And I, like Pamela, just want to thank you for sharing space. However you are called to act, whether it is in exploring your own story, in supporting an artist that's exploring theirs, or supporting community activism, I hope you are called to some type of action just by being here. And if the only action you are called to is joining us next Thursday, I will willingly take that one as well.
Thank you again, and everyone have a good evening.
Pamela, before we go, I wanted to just make sure I
yes, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. Okay, so items that we're looking for, and the reason we are looking for donations of any sort, either in kind or monetary, we're sending packages out each day to the different demographics, different groups that are looking for assistance of that sort, looking for non-perishable food items or cleaning supplies, PPE, or perhaps funds to send that our way. And so we are, you could, if you choose to donate online, or you can find us at UtahNavajoRelief.com. And I apologize, I have 2 outdated donation drives that are listed there. And speaking of donation drives, it's been phenomenal to have, to work with my friends and my family and everybody who believes in this, to assist us to make this possible. So yes, click to the next screen, pretty please. Okay, the best way to get in touch with us. So we are available at UtahNavajoRelief.com, and that will take you to the Utah Navajo Health System page. So we are so lucky, and let me describe what this looks like. There's a new clinic that's just across a gravel parking lot. But in the old clinic, our COVID relief program has taken over. We set up shop in all of the old seeing rooms or waiting rooms, or examination rooms. We put up shelves and we have stocked them with donations. And so we've had amazing people like Donna Eldridge, my best friend, had a 4-day donation drive with the University of Utah. My husband, Jacob Crane, has been collecting donations from SLC air protectors and then driving them down. And it's no easy feat, because this is like a 7-hour drive from Salt Lake City down to the southeast corner. That's where we're at here on the reservation. So I want to thank everybody who's been assisting us so far. And I want a special thank you to the Autry, a special thank you to Pamela for considering us and keeping us in mind, and for making this possible. And I want to thank my team. So I want to thank Pete, and I thank Kayla, and the eNavajo program, and all of the volunteers. So all our volunteers who make these deliveries, these are nurses, and EMTs and therapists, people in the behavioral health department. Each department of this clinic, everybody's volunteered to just roll up their sleeves and make these deliveries, which is also great because we want to make sure that everybody's doing things in the proper way and a safe way. But you can find us on Instagram at Utah Navajo Health System, or if you want to find strictly the relief efforts and some of our photos, that's at facebook.com/groups/Utah Navajo COVID Relief. Or if you just want to shoot me a note and say, hey, can you clarify something? Sahar K at unhsinc.org, or for Pete, it's hpete at unhsinc.org. And yeah, wholeheartedly. And as a hey howdy, I'm just holding down the fort down here in Utah Navajo. Thank you all for tuning in, and for those who have contributed, I appreciate you wholeheartedly. And yeah, truly. The end.
Thank you for all your work that you do, Sahar, and Pete and Jacob and Donna and everyone. It's I only helped for a few days one time, and I was just about beat after a few days. So thank you.
No, right here, right now, you are all helping. Tacey, Sonny, Sherwin, your love for poetry and sharing that and fueling all of our love for your words and coming out today. All this is also meaningful and also powerful. To every single person who has attended this evening, I want to give you all a big round of applause. This is so weird. I wish we were all in person. I know there would be a roar of applause. I'm so proud of everybody. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, Pamela, everybody for providing the space. And, I think all of us are watching, all of the support that's coming out to Navajo land and also to the surrounding nations. I mean, like White Mountain Apache and Hopi Nation, and even here in New Mexico, the Pueblos. I think it's important to really consider the unique situation that we're in. Not that other people don't have, some disadvantages, but I think in a way, the piece that I read about is essentially was me thinking about just how we embrace others, and we can't do that anymore because we are a culture that we are family. And even if I may have never met somebody in person before, I address them as soon afterwards as family, and that's how we are, and that's the sort of great web and the great weave that we have together. So it's really it's wonderful to see Sahar's work. It's area, I get glimpses of it. I get video. Also, the other relief organizations, and all of us are doing our part. Like, I definitely take stuff home. I mean, midway, meet my parents or meet somebody halfway, and then they carry the things back home. And we're all trying. We're all doing this on our own. So that's also the beauty of this. But thank you so much. Have a good night, you guys.
Thank you, Sherwin.
No questions?
I don't see any questions that are coming up, but yeah, I just really want to thank you again, once again, Tacey and Sherwin, for your beautiful words. I know we as Diné people, we're all being affected by COVID-19 in some way or another. And, just even this week, I have 3 friends who, tested positive, and one of them actually tested negative back in April, and now has tested positive. So it's imperative that we all wear masks. It's imperative that we take care of each other, and we have to understand that this is something that's really it's hurting all of us, and there's benefits in protecting ourselves with masks. and to stay home. I really love the support that you're doing, Sahar, for our families back home. I wish I could be home. I did this also because I want to hear and be connected to relatives and family back home. And I think this is how I think a larger group of people can really understand what we're going through, but also how we are also evolving and persevering, because we're strong. We're resilient Navajos. So let's see. Oh, there's a question. Are there any support groups for individuals who have tested positive that you may know of? Actually, I don't. I don't know if you guys know of any. Do you know of Sahar or Brittany?
Support group is a great question. And actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to jot that down because here at UNHS, it's our behavioral health team that makes the calls to inform people of their negative or positive status. But that's a really great point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I got another question from Sam Anderson. He said, do you deliver to elders out at E&A?
Can you elaborate what is the long version of E&A? And is that in Utah?
I think that's Eastern Navajo Agency.
So we Utah Navajos, we stick within the borders from Colorado, the Colorado border, all the way out to not Tucson, to Navajo Mountain.
Oh, you know what? I wanted people to understand too, with Sahar, she doesn't only help the Navajo people, but she's also helping out other tribes out there, the Paiutes. And can you elaborate what the other tribes you're helping too?
Oh, gotcha. So although we don't have a lot of supplies, we wanted to share what we have. What little we have, we wanted to make sure that our neighboring tribes were able to practice safe habits. And so we have taken or delivered gallons of hand sanitizer, the liquid form of hand sanitizer, to the Mountain Ute tribe, because White Mesa Ute Mountain Ute is right next to us, just a few minutes north of us. And we wanted to be sure that they had supplies, so we took it to Toya because they're the same tribe in Colorado. Pete, our founder, just yesterday, he took some down to the Hopi Nation, and I believe he took some to White Mountain Apache. Ooh, I better not get this wrong. And later this weekend, I'll be delivering some to Jimez Pueblo, and we have other tribes that we've reached out to that neighbor us. So I feel like this is a way that if we're all practicing good habits in ways of combating COVID-19 together in this strong effort, I hope that we can flatten the curve and spend less times in border towns and more times within our hometowns, but do so by washing hands for 20 seconds, using hand sanitizer, and mask it.
I think that's a perfect thing to end on.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we've allotted our time, and so I just wanted just to say thank you all, and please remember to tune in next Thursday at 6 p.m. to hear Jake and Rowie as they share some additional Navajo poetry. So good night, everybody.